Ella used to believe that love, when it came from God, would feel safe. She believed it would feel gentle and warm, like morning light spilling through a window. Not like a slow ache that settled into her bones and refused to leave. She believed love would make her feel seen, not erased. And for a long time, she wondered if the reason her heart hurt so deeply was because she was doing something wrong, because maybe she wasn't faithful enough, prayerful enough, worthy enough. She never questioned Lewis at first, she questioned herself. She met Lewis during a season when her faith was simple and sincere. She was not searching for romance. She was searching for God, for purpose, for a place to belong. Lewis seemed to have found those things already. He spoke about scripture with conviction, he prayed with confidence. When he lifted his hands in worship, it looked like surrender, not performance. Ella admired that. She admired him quietly, from a distance that felt respectful, safe. Their conversations began innocently, small talk after church. Occasional messages about sermons, shared laughter over little things. Nothing that screamed love. Nothing that warned her heart to guard itself. But hearts don't always ask permission. Ella noticed how her spirit responded to Lewis before her mind did. She found herself anticipating his presence, feeling lighter when he smiled at her, heavier when he seemed distant. She prayed harder, served more, tried to align herself even more closely with God, hoping, unconsciously, that becoming more spiritual would somehow make her more visible. Lewis never made promises. He never flirted. He never crossed lines. But he also never drew clear boundaries. He allowed her closeness when it benefited him, when he needed encouragement, affirmation, someone to listen. And Ella, eager to be useful, gave freely. She did not know she was teaching her heart to accept crumbs. Then there was Miriam. Miriam did not ease into Lewis's life the way Ella had. She arrived like a storm, bold, striking, unforgettable. Her laughter carried. Her confidence filled rooms. When Miriam spoke, people listened. When she walked by, heads turned. Lewis turned. Ella saw it instantly. The way one recognizes danger before it has a name. She watched Lewis become someone else around Miriam, more animated, more hopeful, more alive. He noticed things about her that he never noticed about anyone else. He remembered her preferences. He lingered in her presence. He waited for her messages with an eagerness that made Ella's chest tighten. And yet, Miriam never seemed to fully see Lewis. She smiled at him kindly, accepted his gestures graciously, but her heart was elsewhere. It followed Richard like a compass locked onto north, even when north kept moving further away. Ella watched all of this unfold like a silent witness to a tragedy no one else seemed to notice. Lewis would come to her after his interactions with Miriam, confused and hopeful all at once. He would talk about her as if she were a promise God was withholding. Ella listened, nodding, offering comfort, even when every word felt like it was peeling something away from her insides. She told herself this was what love looked like: sacrifice, patience, endurance. She didn't realize she was disappearing. She tried everything she knew how to do without betraying her values or her faith. She prayed intentionally. She fasted quietly. She asked God to remove her feelings if they were not from Him, but they remained persistent, unrelenting. She began to believe that their endurance meant confirmation. So she leaned in. She became more present, more supportive, more available. She celebrated Lewis's achievements louder than anyone else. She defended him when others criticized him. She positioned herself as someone irreplaceable, hoping that consistency would eventually turn into affection. It never did. Lewis accepted her loyalty without recognizing its cost. And when her presence began to feel heavy, when her eyes held too much hope, when her words hinted at deeper meaning, he recoiled. Still, Ella held on. Until the day she spoke the words that changed everything. She told him God had spoken to her, that she believed they were meant for each other. She said it with fear and faith tangled together, hoping honesty would bring clarity. Instead, it brought distance. Lewis did not respond with compassion, he responded with offense. He told her she was mistaken, that she was confusing her emotions with God's voice. His tone hardened. His patience thinned. From that moment on, something in him shifted. He no longer saw Ella as a friend. He saw her as a problem. And that was when her suffering deepened. Because while Lewis was rejecting her, he was still chasing Miriam. He poured everything into her time, money, affection, hope. He wrote letters filled with longing. He bought gifts meant to impress. He sent her money, sacrificing his own needs just to show devotion. He believed that if he loved her enough, she would eventually choose him. She never did. Miriam's heart was consumed by Richard, a man who kept her at arm's length. She pursued him relentlessly, bending herself into desperation, offering herself freely, hoping intimacy would secure commitment. It never did. And every time Richard rejected Miriam, she carried that rejection to Lewis. She spoke harshly to him, treated his love like a nuisance, took out her frustration on the one person who never stopped showing up. Lewis absorbed the pain and then redirected it toward Ella. When Miriam ignored Lewis, Lewis ignored Ella. When Miriam wounded him, Lewis wounded Ella. When Lewis felt powerless, he exerted power where he could. Ella became the silent recipient of emotional overflow she never caused. She went home heavy almost every day, wondering how love had turned into punishment. She questioned her worth. She questioned God. She questioned whether being faithful simply meant being forgotten. Until one night, completely emptied, she fell to her knees and told God she could not do it anymore. She asked him to help her let go. And letting go felt like dying. Letting go did not happen the way Ella thought it would. She imagined it would feel like a decision, a moment of resolve where she stood up from the floor, wiped her tears, and suddenly felt free. But instead, it felt like withdrawal. Like her body and spirit were rebelling against her obedience. She woke up thinking about Lewis, even after telling God she wanted to walk away. She reached for her phone instinctively, wanting to check if he had messaged her, even though she knew he wouldn't, or worse, that he might, and she would answer. The silence that followed her prayer was louder than the noise she had lived with for so long. She began creating distance in small, almost invisible ways. She stopped initiating conversations. She replied later than usual. She sat further away in church. She told herself it was temporary, that she just needed space to breathe. But every step back felt like ripping something out of her chest. Lewis noticed the change, but not immediately. At first, he was too consumed by his own disappointment. Miriam had grown colder, more distant. Richard had disappointed her again, and she had turned sharp, impatient, unreachable. Lewis felt like he was constantly chasing someone who was always just out of reach. And the exhaustion of that pursuit began to wear him down. When he turned out of habit to Ella for comfort, she was no longer there in the same way. Her absence unsettled him. He found himself scanning rooms for her, noticing the empty space where her attentiveness used to be. The encouragement he once took for granted was missing. The emotional cushion he had leaned on was gone, and for the first time, Lewis felt the weight of standing alone. Ella, meanwhile, was unraveling quietly. She cried in the shower so no one would hear her. She cried on her pillow at night, asking God why obedience felt like punishment. She felt foolish for ever believing that her love meant something. Embarrassed by her vulnerability, ashamed of how deeply she had hoped. There were moments she almost went back, not because Lewis had changed, but because loneliness felt unbearable. Familiar pain tempted her more than unfamiliar healing. But God was doing something slow and surgical in her heart. He began to show her patterns she had refused to see. How she overgave. How she equated love with endurance. How she believed her value increased the more she sacrificed. How she had mistaken being needed for being chosen. These realizations hurt. because they forced her to confront a truth she had avoided. Lewis had never loved her the way she loved him. And no amount of patience, prayer, or pain would change that. Then, just as her resolve was beginning to strengthen, Lewis reached out. It started gently. A message checking in on her. A comment about how distant she seemed. His tone was softer now, reflective, almost regretful. Ella's heart reacted before her mind could catch up. The sound of his name lighting up her phone sent a rush through her body she hated herself for feeling. She replied cautiously, guarded but polite. Lewis leaned in. He began noticing her again, complimenting her growth, her faith, her kindness. He told her he appreciated her more than he realized before. He admitted he had taken her for granted. What he did not say, but what Ella felt, was that Miriam was gone. Miriam had finally closed the door on Lewis. She had grown tired of his devotion, tired of his persistence, tired of carrying guilt for feelings she did not have. Her heart was still chasing Richard, still bruised, still hopeful for someone who kept her waiting. Lewis, left alone with his heartbreak, turned toward what was familiar. Safe. Available. Ella. And this time, his attention was intoxicating. It was everything she had once prayed for, arriving at the moment she was trying to let go. His words stirred old hope. His presence reopened wounds she thought were beginning to heal. She felt torn between gratitude and fear, desire and discernment. She asked God quietly, desperately, what she was supposed to do. Because part of her still loved Lewis. And another part of her finally loved herself enough to be afraid. The relationship that followed was confusing, inconsistent, and deeply unsettling. Lewis's interest was real, but it was rooted in loss, not revelation. He was drawn to Ella not because he had suddenly seen her clearly, but because he was hurting and lonely. Some days he was warm, attentive, almost affectionate. Other days he pulled away, distant, unsure. He spoke about healing, about timing, about God's will, but his actions wavered. Ella felt herself shrinking again, monitoring her words, adjusting her expectations, trying not to scare him away. And then it became clear. Lewis was not choosing her. He was settling. The realization came quietly one afternoon, without drama or tears. She was sitting alone, reading her Bible, when the words seemed to rise off the page and settle into her spirit with unmistakable clarity. Love is not supposed to make you feel like an option. She closed the book and sat there for a long time, breathing slowly, letting the truth sink in. That night, she prayed differently. She did not beg God to fix Lewis. She did not ask him to make things work. She asked him to heal her taste for what hurt her. She asked him to teach her what healthy love looked like. And slowly, something shifted. Ella began pouring into herself what she had poured into everyone else. She strengthened her boundaries. She learned to say no without guilt. She surrounded herself with people who saw her, who valued her, who did not require her to diminish herself to belong. She spent time with God not to get answers about Lewis, but to rediscover who she was without him. And as she healed, Lewis became clearer. She saw his immaturity, his emotional dependence, his tendency to chase what rejected him and devalue what stayed. She realized that his treatment of her was never about her worth, it was about his wounds. The day she finally let him go was quiet. No confrontation. No long explanation. Just a gentle but firm withdrawal of access. She stopped waiting. Stopped hopping. Stopped making space for someone who had never fully chosen her. And for the first time in a long time, she felt peace. Not happiness. Not excitement. Peace. She understood then that sometimes God allows unreciprocated love not to punish us, but to expose what we believe about ourselves. Sometimes He lets us fall for the wrong person, so we can finally learn how deeply we need to love ourselves through Him. Ella did not end up with Lewis, but she ended up with something far more sacred, a restored sense of worth. a deeper relationship with God, and a heart no longer willing to beg to be chosen. Stay tuned for the part 2 of Ella's story, as she fully steps into healing and identity. As Lewis faces the consequences of his patterns, and as Miriam and Richard's storyline reaches its emotional conclusion. This story builds toward redemption, lessons, and closure,